Sunday, you could say that we are delving into three inquiries. One is the mysteries that are hidden in plain sight until we no longer need to see by the light of existence. Second is, where and what is this place and state we find ourselves in when we are seeing without the aid of our sensory awareness? And more importantly and esoterically speaking, where in us do heaven and earth, or permanency and impermanency, or that which is never changing and that which is ever changing, meet? And there's an old story that addresses all three. And that is the story about that great sage and scholar, Narada. Now, Narada was totally dedicated to the god Vishnu. And that dedication had brought about the ability for him to at will rise to the celestial realms and convene with the god Vishnu himself. But one day Narada was on a pilgrimage when he came to a certain village where he got into conversation with a merchant. Now the merchant was a man of faith and dedication himself to sages and the like. So, seeing this in Narada, he invited him back to his house for a meal. So Narada willingly accepted this invitation and indeed was fed a feast by the merchant and his wife. But after partaking of the meal, Narada made the observation to the merchant. He said, "I have partaken of a delicious repast, but I feel sadness in the meal." "Oh," said the merchant, "you are indeed a sage, because my wife and I live in a state of sadness because we have never been able to have a child, and we have longed for and done all that we can to bring this about, prayed, kept up the rituals of our faith, but to no avail." So Narada said, "Do you have your horoscopes?" So the merchant brought out the horoscopes of his wife and himself that had been cast by a very learned pundit. And Narada studied this horoscope, and then he asked to see the palms of the merchant and his wife. And when he studied their palms, he shook his head and said, "I'm so sorry to say that it is not in your destiny to have children." Now, of course, the merchant and his wife were very sad at hearing this, and Narada himself was sad at having to give this information to the merchant and his wife. Now, after Narada took his leave, and on an occasion when he was sitting under a tree resting from the sun, he took himself by will to the celestial realms, where he met up with the god Vishnu himself and told the story of how he had visited this merchant and his wife, who were people of great faith and dedication, but they had no children, even though it was their longing to do so. Could you not intervene, said Narada? And Vishnu replied, Narada, my son, you know very well that the laws of karma are inviolable. It is not in the destiny of this couple to have children. Now, of course, Narada was very sad to hear that, but he knew exactly what Vishnu was saying, knowing well himself this inviolable law. But there was an occasion, some time later, when Narada was taking the same road as he had taken before, and again came to the village where he met the merchant, who seemed in a very happy state of mind, and again was invited back to the merchant's house. But when they came to the garden of that house, Narada saw 3 children playing in the yard, and he asked, "Whose children are these?" And the merchant said, "They are my children." Now, Narada was greatly surprised and shocked at this news. How could this be? And the merchant related that not long after Narada, his visit previously, an old hermit had come into town and declared, "Give me 1 loaf of bread for 1 child, 2 loaves for 2, and 3 loaves for 3. Now, related the merchant, even though we knew it was not in our fate to have children, we nevertheless invited the hermit for a meal, and indeed gave him the 3 loaves of bread, after which we begot our 3 children." Now Narada was greatly shocked at this. How could this be? So at the first opportunity, he took himself to the celestial realms to meet up again with the god Vishnu, and asked, "How can this be when the laws of karma and destiny are inviolable?" "Ah," said Vishnu, "when a Bhakta speaks, we, the gods, must obey." Now, Narada was greatly perplexed by this, so Vishnu said to him, "Don't think about this now," knowing what a great intellectual Narada was. He said, "Wait a while, let us go and wander the streets of the city for a while." And so they did. Narada and the god Vishnu wandered down the streets of a certain city, when suddenly Vishnu grabbed himself, fell down to the ground, crying in agony, oh, one of my devotees has given me something that is poisoned, and I need a liver immediately." Now, Narada was greatly shocked, and he immediately ran off, and it was in the vicinity of a certain temple at the time of prayer. So he rushed into the temple and he said, "Please, the god Vishnu needs a liver. Who will give their liver?" But nobody took any notice. They were too busy chanting and waving their incense. So Narada hurried out and he went down by a stream. There were a group of fishermen fishing, and he said, "Please, please, Vishnu needs a liver. Is there anyone amongst you who will..." Oh, none of the fishermen said, "Well, go over and see him." And so there was an old hermit standing in the stream on one leg, his eyes closed, intoning and chanting. So Narada quickly went over to him and said, Vishnu is in need of a liver, otherwise he's going to die." The old hermit opened his eyes and said, "Come with me." And so Narada followed the old hermit back to the hermit's hut, which was on the side of the stream. And when he followed the hermit into his hut, the hermit sat down in lotus position, and taking a knife, closing his eyes, he thrust it in his side and cut across, taking out the warm and bloodied liver and handing it to Narada, saying, "Give this to Vishnu." The hermit closed his eyes and went into deep meditation as the blood flowed down his thighs. Narada hurried back to Vishnu to find him standing up, looking quite well, if you don't mind. And Narada handed the liver to Vishnu, stating that it had been given by a certain hermit. "Ah," said Vishnu, "now you have the answer to your question." That hermit was a great Bhakta, a great devotee of mind. And Vishnu said, "But Narada, you yourself have a liver. Why did you not offer what you have?" "Oh," said Narada, with great confusion, I did not think." But then Vishnu said, "No doubt, Narada, you are a great devotee of mine, but you are an intellectual. Your mind and intellect and the going between still remain. And as was said, when a Bhakta speaks, the gods must obey." That hermit is the same hermit who asked that the merchant be given his children. And before Narada's eyes, the great god Vishnu took on the visage, the persona, the being of the hermit. Bhakti. The Bhakta is one who practices Bhakti, love and devotion. But when we find ourselves in this place where there is no longer a guru, chosen idea or a God to give that devotion, love and devotion to. What does Bhakti become? What is this meeting place between that which is never changing, permanent, and the life that we all know, the life of cause and effect, the need to survive, make decisions, survive? If we answer the question when all has been taken away from us, finally the love and devotion to something, what does Bhakti become?